First off, media partners, thank you very much for coming here today. Obviously, through stories you guys have seen, and then other information we've been able to put out, there's an update in a 2005 cold case homicide. An arrest has been made in a case that we've affectionately dubbed the baby Skylar homicide case. First off, my name's Rob Scheer, ROBSCHERER. I'm a sergeant with the Phoenix Police Department's Public Affairs Bureau. This case for the Phoenix Police Department began back on October 10th, 2005, when a newborn infant was located deceased inside of a bathroom at Sky Harbor International Airport. At that time, our homicide unit did respond and began an extensive investigation into this death. Ultimately, all leads at that point were exhausted, and it was passed on to our cold case homicide unit. In about 2020, this case was actually identified to be worked collaboratively with the FBI Violent Crime Task Force and essentially the cold case element of this task force. This collaborative work directly resulted in the identification of the mother and suspect in this case. This mother has been identified as 51-year-old Annie Anderson. Anderson is currently in custody in the state of Washington on an arrest warrant related to this investigation. She's awaiting extradition to formally be charged here in Maricopa County. Today I have two speakers to give you kind of an update and kind of some insight into this case. First will be Supervisory Special Agent Dan Horan. He supervises the Violent Crime Task Force with the FBI, and Lieutenant James Hester with the Phoenix Police Department Homicide Unit. They will both take questions after Lieutenant Hester's statement. Those questions will be limited, but they'll do their best to answer as much as they can. Again, thank you guys very much, and I'd like to introduce Supervisory Special Agent Dan Horan.
Good morning. As Sergeant Scheer said, my name is Dan Horan. I'm a Supervisory Special Agent for the FBI's Phoenix Field Office. I work with the men and women from a number of agencies that comprise the Phoenix FBI Violent Crime Task Force. I'd like to briefly say that part of the reason we're here today is because of the confluence of two critical crime-fighting tools: our Violent Crime Task Force and the advancements in use of investigative genetic genealogy. FBI Task Force exists in large to measure, to bring together highly skilled officers, detectives, deputies, and agents from local, state, and federal partners. Their individual skills and power of their home agencies and collective expertise provide force multipliers in working cases like this one. Simply put, the FBI could not do its work without the vibrant collaboration of our local law enforcement partners. A case like baby Skylar's underscores the task force value. Investigative genetic genealogy, or IgG, is an investigative technique that was deployed in this case. Simply put, IgG combines unknown crime scene DNA with traditional genealogy research to generate leads for law enforcement to follow. It is an identity resolution technique and uses crime scene DNA to create genealogy profile. Investigators use the publicly available genealogy databases to identify family member matches to an unknown profile. To be very clear, arrests are not made on investigative genetic genealogy, and IgG is not used to prove someone's guilty at trial. IgG is for lead purposes only and can be a useful tool in cases like this one. As I turn it over now to Lieutenant Hester, I'd like to close with this. The goal of using this approach is to bring people to justice and identify unknown victims, and to provide closure for families and communities in which they live. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is James Hester. I'm the lieutenant of the Phoenix Police Department's Homicide Unit, which includes our cold case homicide squad. I want to express my sincere gratitude to the FBI and especially Agent Jim Krause, Homicide Detective Michelle Cervantes, and Phoenix Police Crime Laboratory for all their hard work on this tragic incident. On October 10, 2005, Phoenix police officers assigned to the Sky Harbor Airport responded to a call of a dead baby in Terminal 4 restroom. When they arrived at the scene, they discovered a female newborn wrapped in newspapers and a white towel, stuffed in a plastic bag with red Marriott lettering, deceased. This terrible incident was originally signed to and investigated by Detective Sandra Rodriguez, Detective Thomas Kalesa, and our crime scene specialist, William McMahon. The evidence on the scene indicated that the birth likely did not occur at the airport, and the bathroom was where the baby was abandoned by the suspects or the suspect. Detectives passionately worked the case, including scouring the Marriott hotels in the Phoenix metro area, looking for additional evidence and leads, but were ultimately unsuccessful in identifying a suspect. DNA evidence collected at the scene that was identified as being from the mother was entered into the combined DNA index system, or what we refer to as CODIS, by the Phoenix Crime Laboratory, which runs suspect DNA against samples from other known suspects, but that also resulted in no match being identified. Baby Skylar was examined by the Office of the Medical Examiner on October 12, 2005. The medical examiner ruled the death a homicide and the manner of death being suffocation. The investigation continued throughout the years, with the original detective working leads up through 2016, including some that led detectives to California, but ultimately those leads too were unsuccessful in identifying a suspect. Detective Michelle Cervantes of the Homicide Cold Case Squad continued working the case after the original detectives retired. In 2019, the Phoenix Police Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigation partnered together to explore the potential of investigative genetic genealogy as part of the FBI's Violent Crime Task Force. Detective Cervantes and Special Agent Krause spent countless hours working the case and ultimately identified a suspect, Annie Anderson of Washington State. When confronted, Annie Anderson identified herself as the mother of the victim and provided an account of what occurred. Annie Anderson was arrested for the homicide of baby Skylar and is currently in Washington State awaiting extradition to Arizona. Cold case homicides are challenging. Time is not often kind to investigations as our leads dry up, leaving detectives few options to move a case forward. This community that we serve rightfully expects that all of our victims are never forgotten, and cold case homicide detectives like Michelle Cervantes carry that responsibility on their shoulders. Additionally, advancements in DNA and other forensic technologies in use by the Phoenix Police Crime Laboratory are getting better every year, which allows law enforcement to reevaluate evidence and find new leads that were not there previously. Our collection methods are constantly getting better, our processes are becoming more effective, and our partnerships are becoming more essential. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, and specifically the FBI Violent Crimes Task Force, is a force multiplier that allows local police departments like the Phoenix Police Department to partner with federal law enforcement like the FBI to combine resources and expertise to bring justice to our victims. We would be in a much different situation without Special Agent Jim Krause, as his partnership was invaluable. And on behalf of the Phoenix Police Department, I want to thank Jim and Detective Cervantes for their tremendous work in bringing long overdue justice to baby Skylar. Now, Supervisory Special Agent Dan Horan and myself will hang around and answer some questions if you have any. Go ahead, miss.
So you mentioned IgG and how that was used as a lead in this case. Mr. Ferron talked about that. But what other leads, what other investigative evidence do you have pointing to the suspect at this time? Can you talk about that?
Well, obviously, we have DNA evidence of the mother. So, and we have the examination of our victim that showed our victim died as a result of suffocation. So we have a dead child, we have an identified mother, and we have her statement. So there's other little bits and pieces of evidence, but that's the main bulk of our evidence.
Can you talk at this time what that statement mentioned or said?
At this time, I'd rather not. I do understand why you'd want to know that, but this is a long overdue case that we're trying to successfully prosecute, and I don't want to harm any prosecution. So in that regard, I'm not going to talk about what she specifically said. I'm sorry, miss.
Do you have any reason to believe that the suspect had ties to Phoenix? Were they just passing through Sky Harbor, catching a flight? Do you know?
Yes, there was the suspect was here on business. It was a real estate boot camp. Yes.
Who was the genealogical match to? Was it a sibling of Anderson? Was it a cousin? Was it perhaps another child of Annie Anderson's?
I don't believe we can really get into that.
We can't get into exactly who it was. As we do our work, our genealogical work, and the DNA work with that, through the genealogy, we identified someone in the family tree. That person consented to the sample and led the investigation further to Ms. Anderson.
Upload their DNA to a system, and that's how you first got to it?
No, we actually approached the person, explained what we are doing, and they consented to their DNA for a one-time use.
Does the suspect have any other prior criminal history?
Not that I'm aware of, but I don't have her complete criminal history in the state of Washington, so I don't have that answer. Yes.
What was the manner of death? Asphyxiation? Was the baby dead when they were abandoned, or they died because they had been stuffed with all this other stuff?
The baby was born alive, and the baby suffocated.
So do we know how the baby suffocated?
I don't, but even if I did, I wasn't going to go into that specifically. Yes, sir.
Just to confirm that she did admit to the murder.
Yes.
Do you know how long before she is transferred here?
No, that is a process. That's a business process between interstate. It can take time. There's deadlines that the courts have in order to move on things, but she's in custody right now. We know that she's going to be coming to Arizona. She has her rights in order to delay appeal, but we believe that she will be brought here in due time. Yes.
Do you know who the father is in this case? And was the investigation always looking into the mother as the prime suspect in baby Skylar's death?
So, like I said earlier, we didn't know if there was more than one suspect. So, yes, we do know who the father is, but based on the totality of the investigation, we have no reason to suspect he has criminal culpability.
I know that mugshot rules and laws in Washington are a little bit different. Do you know how soon we could get a picture? I think many of us have seen kind of the composite that we've been given before.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll have to work with Sergeant Shear to see. I don't really have that answer, so but we can work on that and we'll get back with you.
To answer that last one, I would assume when she is extradited here and then booked into Maricopa County, I would assume those same rules would apply. Again, thank you guys very much for coming. I would like to commend all the officers. This is obviously one that us as law enforcement will look at, and this will stick with a lot of officers that have been involved in this. This is 18 years of an investigation, 19 years of an investigation that touched many people at many different levels of this department and beyond. And it touched a lot of the citizens back in '05. So I'd like to commend everybody from the original responding officers to ultimately the place we're at now in this investigation. Every one of them added a piece of that puzzle to ultimately get to where we're at today. Again, when I get that information and when she's ultimately extradited here, I will update the media advisory. For those that didn't get the media advisory, I will push it out to all the desks here in the next 20 minutes. And then when she is extradited, I'll get you the information like we usually do to hopefully be able to generate that picture for you guys. So thank you guys very, very much. We appreciate it.